Is creativity important for our well-being? This is a question that has been asked for thousands of years, all the way back to ancient time. Modern psychologists say absolutely it is. But the first argument about this goes back to ancient Greece and to Aristotle, the young philosopher, and his mentor, the lofty Plato. Plato, as you can see in the painting, really believed in the ideal, the pure idea that only could be found in the mind. And so what he really decided was that art was frivolous. He called it mimesis. Mimesis, he said, doesn't serve any great purpose. In other words, a carpenter can build a chair from a beautiful idea. They're never really satisfied with that chair. It's never what it was in that perfect idea. And then once another artist comes around and draws that chair, it's twice removed from perfection. Useless, totally useless, Plato said. Aristotle, on the other hand, is of the earth. He really understands that we need something to help us cope and understand the sometimes tragic world around us. We need to be connected in a certain way spiritually to certain things that the ancients were very much aware of. As we move forward into the 20th century, we have a great psychologist that goes back and examines these issues. His name is Carl Jung. He's the father of modern analytical psychology. Jung essentially says that we need to focus on the individual psyche and the individual's quest for meaning and wholeness and completeness in the world. Also, it's important that even modern man understands that there are great spiritual secrets hidden in the subconscious. He talks about the archetypes of the collective unconscious. If we look at those, we can see that those symbols all are very similar. First, they're all based on the circle. The circle, the most important symbol in the history of humanity. The circle, of course, is important because it is the god, the sun, the moon. They are the most prevalent things in the sky. And so they become incredibly important. When we look at this image of the life cycle, the first image on your left, we see the idea of birth, the idea of adolescence, moving into maturity, and then on into death, but there's a regeneration. That regeneration comes when our bodies are turned to dust. But this is also the seasons, the 4 seasons, the cycle of life. And it goes all the way through humanity. We see it as the most primary symbol. Look at the zodiac with equinox, the equinoxes, and the solstices making that cross, the second most important symbol. The cross predates Christianity by thousands of years. And then if we look at how these symbols are being used around the world, top right, Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq. We see these little deer chasing each other in a circle, creating a diagonal cross, but also a swastika, that great symbol of fortune up until the 20th century when Hitler screwed it up for everyone. And then we go down diagonally to Western United States, all at the same time, same as Mesopotamia, 3000 BC. And we see the same symbol, only using the regional animal of the rattlesnake. All the way over to your right, you see that Native American medicine wheel, which, again, is the life cycle. And then in the center, the Celtic cross, the cross of the Druids who are going to merge with the Catholic Church and really become the most fanatical Catholics in the world. And the Catholic Church is going to take part of their symbol, that idea of the cross, and make it the mainstay of Christianity. Now, as we start to move forward and we see that these ideas become personified in history, if we look at the 3 deities, 2 deities moving into the great deity of Jesus Christ, we see Osiris, the king of Egypt, who is mutilated by his son Set, scattered throughout Egypt. His wife Isis has to go out and retrieve all the body parts, bring them back to one place, and he essentially is regenerated, comes back to life in 3 days, and then goes on to become the judge of the underworld, the judge of Hades, essentially. Next we have Dionysus, a very important god in Greek time, the god of wine and fertility. His story is a little different and very fascinating in many ways. He's the son of Semele, a mortal, and Zeus, the great god, the giant god. Zeus is married to Hera, of course. Zeus has an affair with Semele. She gets pregnant. Hera gets upset and goes to Semele and says she needs to go to Zeus and beg him to reveal himself in all his power to her. Even if she has to beg, she begs. Zeus says no. She begs and begs. Finally, Zeus erupts into all his power. Fireballs, lightning. She's toast. She's gone. As is the baby. He takes the embryo, stitches it into his calf. In 3 days, out comes the baby Dionysus. But he has to be sent off to live with the satyrs in the woods in order to be protected where he grows up to become the god of wine and fertility. And finally, I don't have to tell anybody the story of Jesus Christ, the great resurrection. And then we move into Christianity. Once we move into Christianity, we kind of see that spiritual context become enormous. The most important time in art is the Italian Renaissance. And we can see in the Italian Renaissance that same iconography, those same archetypes are coming right into Christianity. You look at that circular stained glass window, which is essentially the same symbol we've been looking at for 1,000 years. And then we see this great artistic mastery, perhaps the greatest artistic mastery in ages, in the Renaissance. If we look at the two great masters, we look at the Last Supper above, Sistine Chapel below, these have actually become archetypes in their own way. Everyone knows them and reveres them. Again, we've looked at this first 1,500 years because it really shows that there was a spiritual connection that drove civilization. And as I said before, today psychologists are saying a little bit of creative activity every day is really going to help us be more content, less depressed, happier in the world. As Jung would say, more complete and whole. So is creativity important today? I would say probably more so than ever.